You ever wonder what makes a tech giant really tick? Not just for a year, but for decades? Well, today we're doing a deep dive into one of the originals, Texas Instruments. We've dug through their 2024 annual report to pull out the one core strategy that really drives every single decision the semiconductor powerhouse makes.
So, here's the game plan. We'll kick things off with TI's ultimate goal, their North Star. Then we'll look at the 4 advantages they use to build their competitive moat. After that, we follow the money, see how the 2024 numbers stacked up, face the challenges ahead, and wrap it all up with the massive long-term bet TI is making on its future.
Okay, let's get right to the heart of it. To really truly understand Texas Instruments, you have to know what they care about most. There is one single metric that guides the entire company. It dictates everything they do, every decision they make. And here it is, straight from the top. The president and CEO, Haviv Ilan, lays it out plain and simple. While a lot of other tech companies are out there chasing things like market share or user growth, TI has a different obsession. It is all about the long-term growth of free cash flow per share. That idea right there, that's the bedrock of their entire strategy.
So what in the world is free cash flow? Now, the easiest way to think about it is like a company's take-home pay. It's the actual cash that's left over after you've paid all the bills to keep the lights on, and, this part is crucial, after you've made all the big investments to grow, like building new factories. It's the pure cash profit that you can then use to, say, buy another company, or, and this is key for TI, give back directly to the owners.
All right, so if the goal is to maximize that free cash flow, the next question is how? Well, TI believes it has a powerful strategic moat, and it's built on what they see as 4 key competitive advantages.
And the first advantage is just relentless focus. I mean, look at this. TI is not trying to be everything to everybody. A whopping 78% of their revenue comes from analog chips. You know, those are the little brains that take real-world stuff like temperature or sound and turn it into digital data for computers. You add in their other focus, embedded processing, and you see a company that knows its lane and stays in it.
So here's the secret sauce. It's not just one of these advantages. It's how they all lock together. It starts with owning their manufacturing. Then they use that to support a huge portfolio of, get this, over 80,000 different products. They sell these products directly to customers, which builds strong relationships, and they deliberately target diverse, long-lasting markets. It all creates this fortress that they believe is just incredibly tough for anyone else to replicate.
Now this slide, this is a perfect picture of their manufacturing advantage in action. Just by making their chips on a bigger piece of silicon, moving from a 200mm wafer to a 300mm one, they cut the cost of each chip by about 40%. I mean, think about that. That's a massive structural cost advantage they have over competitors before a single chip is even sold.
And this shows you their 4th advantage. Picking the right playgrounds. Almost 70% of their business comes from the industrial and automotive sectors. We're not talking about trendy smartphones that are obsolete in a year. No, when a TI chip gets designed into a car or a factory machine, that can mean a decade or more of steady, predictable revenue. And that stability is gold for a company focused on the long term.
Okay, so generating all that cash is one thing, but what a company actually does with it tells you a whole lot more. And that brings us to the next piece of TI's strategy, a super disciplined, owner-first way of spending their money.
And when they say owner-focused, they are not kidding around. In 2024, which was a down year for the industry, they still returned a staggering $5.72 billion to shareholders. So how'd they do it? Well, it really boils down to 2 main tools. First, the dividend, a reliable, growing paycheck for investors. They bumped it up another 5% in 2024, and that continues a streak of increases that's been going on for over 20 years now. But that's just one part of the equation.
The second tool they use is stock buybacks. And they have some serious firepower left, with over $20 billion authorized for future repurchases. Now, here's why this is so important. When they buy back stock, there are fewer shares out there. That automatically boosts the free cash flow per share. It's a direct lever they can pull to pump up their #1 metric.
So a great strategy sounds nice in a presentation, but the real acid test is how it holds up under pressure. So let's look at the actual results for 2024, a year that really put TI's playbook to the test.
And yeah, looking at the raw numbers, there's no way to sugarcoat it. 2024 was a tough year. Across the board, revenue, operating profit, net income, they all took a pretty big step back from 2023. So the question is, what happened?
Well, context is everything here. This didn't happen in a vacuum. The entire semiconductor market hit a downturn. It's the classic boom and bust cycle of the chip industry. And when customer demand weakens everywhere, it's going to show up in the results.
But, and this is the kicker, let's go back to their ultimate goal. Even with lower revenue, and even while they were spending a massive $4.8 billion on those new factories, TI still generated $1.5 billion in free cash flow. That, right there, shows you the resilience of their model and just how serious they are about that #1 metric. Of course, no business plan is bulletproof, and TI is very open in their report about the pretty significant challenges that they see on the horizon.
You know, they highlight a few big ones. Geopolitical friction is a major factor, especially when about a fifth of your revenue comes from customers in China. Competition is getting fiercer all the time, particularly from Asia. And then you have the usual suspects, market cycles, supply chain shocks, and of course, cybersecurity threats.
So, this all leads to the most important question for anyone watching this company. With all these powerful risks swirling around, what's TI's core bet? How are they actually positioning themselves to win in the long run? And here's their answer. Plain and simple. They are doubling down, and I mean really doubling down, on their #1 competitive advantage, manufacturing. Their huge long-term bet is all about owning and controlling their own production for decades to come. And this isn't just some plan on a whiteboard, it is happening as we speak. They're deep inside this massive multi-billion-dollar spending spree building new factories. In the end game, look at that. By 2030, they want to make over 95% of their own stuff, mostly on those super efficient 300mm lines. In a world of fragile supply chains, this is a huge bet on being the master of your own destiny.
And this final quote from the CEO's letter, it just perfectly sums up the whole mindset. They see themselves as long-term owners building a company that's meant to last, not just managing it for the next 3 months. It's about adapting and positioning yourself to win in a world that never stops changing.
So, we end on this one critical thought. Texas Instruments is betting billions of dollars that controlling its own manufacturing, owning the factories of the future, is the absolute best way to hit its ultimate goal, growing free cash flow per share for its owners year after year. And that leaves us with the final multi-billion-dollar question. Will this massive bet pay off?